The fact that there is something wrong with the Definitive Edition, probably everyone knows. Most people even have no doubts about it. On the other hand, on November 11, 2021, old-timers and real fans of GTA thought that they would relive the wonderful moments they had experienced once again in 2001, 2002, and 2004 respectively. Refreshed versions of GTA parts were to appear on store shelves and in digital subscription, which has deeply taken root in the minds of those older fans of the series. All thanks to the teaser announcing the remaster and then the trailer itself, which, by indicating the release date, caused euphoria, but also effectively cooled down the aspirations of many people thanks to what was presented. After watching the trailer, many fans were simply afraid of the final product, but it was only a preview of the disaster, which, as the trailer itself said, came on November 11, 2021. Although there were groups of players who liked the refreshed trilogy, each part of the remaster contained a whole lot of bugs or flaws. Even the graphic aspect itself left a lot to be desired. You could get the impression that the developers' assurances that the games will be heavily modified graphically, but at the same time will leave the atmosphere of the original games, were something to protect against the opinions that the games look as if they were created some 10 years ago. But what infuriated the most was ubiquitous carelessness. From constantly occurring, totally abstract situations to things that show how much laziness the developers showed. Over the last year, a few patches have appeared in GTA the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, or, if you prefer, the Defective Edition. One of them was even commented on by us. But the question is, how comprehensively all of these patches have affected the games, and is it worth buying them a year after release, giving them a chance? We'll talk about it in today's episode. Welcome to the Gaming Investigators channel, and let's start.
Oh shit, here we go again.
First of all, we believe that it's good to mention the fact that, for a long time, there has been an opportunity in the gaming world that is both a blessing and a curse for players. It is a possibility for the developers of their games to update their games on an ongoing basis, even based on the opinions of players. This has the huge advantage of fixing community-reported bugs, but also causes a kind of laziness and less alertness from developers. The creators often think that, even if they miss something or fail to refine something, they will fix it in the patch. As a result, there are more and more situations where on the day of the game release, things are very, very underdeveloped. And while it is still quite acceptable when we see later that the developers are repairing the game, remasters are one of the better examples where we can see how badly we were treated as players. Especially thanks to Vadim M, who demonstrated that we are dealing with a remaster of the previous remaster.
What?
This has a huge impact on gameplay, because a kind of conversion of the phone versions to the PC or console versions causes great inconvenience, such as the disastrous work of the camera, clearly visible even when using Jetpack in GTA San Andreas. Staying in the aspect of flying, while playing on a PC and not having a controller, we cannot admire even those beautiful views resulting from the refreshed graphics because rotating the camera simply does not work anymore. Since the game's release, there has been no patch to fix this inconvenience, even though the problem with the operation of the camera should not be something difficult to eliminate, especially that in another part of the trilogy, and more precisely in GTA Vice City, without a controller, we can already admire the views. Probably due to this conversion, what we mentioned earlier is also due to one more particular thing. Namely, we cannot switch from crouching to sprint mode without first turning off the first mode. There's a lot of this type of issue, and it affects many levels, and most of all, it is extremely annoying for us players. Moving on, the next thing that has been very much poked fun at by the community is the characters in the game. No wonder, because many characters in the remaster look just terrible. There are plenty examples of effed up characters such as Misty, Lance Vance, Colonel Cortez, or Big Smoke, just to name a a few. The developers have done virtually nothing with the characters, despite many community reports. It is very annoying because since they had decided to change old Reese's appearance in one of the patches, it is obvious that if the creators wanted to improve the other ones, there are simply no major obstacles here. Meanwhile, you can feel the atmosphere and the course of the plot when you see such mouths during cutscenes. You can also see great carelessness in the graphic aspect. For example, some elements of the environment have not been refreshed, which is pathetic. After all, the goal of remasters is to improve the graphics, so this should be fine-tuned. For example, you are currently seeing pictures from the Definitive Edition that are confronted with the work of modders. In this case, we use a mod called Definitive Edition. As you can see, if independent people could do such a good job, then what was the obstacle for a corporation earning so much money to deal with the topic at least as well? The answer is obvious, and at the same time, very sad for us players. Moreover, even these large oversights have not been corrected. Even some cutscenes don't add up. A perfect example is the prologue of GTA 3. We didn't know that back in 2001 there were cars that could drive themselves and didn't need a driver. Staying on this topic, the biggest error that the community has been reporting for months is totally ignored by the creators. After all, we still have many strange-looking textures, cars driving in places where they should not be driven, no textures but an existing collision, and vice versa, that is, textures without collision. On the other hand, poor CJ in GTA San Andreas still cannot pick up his vehicle from the police compound in San Fierro because it is still totally screwed up. Next, there are errors with GPS or huge performance problems, which in our case most often appear in GTA 3. The game sometimes works as if it had requirements like Microsoft Flight Simulator, and we would still have a dual-core Intel on our PC. Moving on, it is raining in some rooms during rainy weather, and there are weird things with some weather conditions in general. We won't even mention that there is still a lack of different weather conditions in GTA San Andreas. As we have probably already mentioned, although we have different varieties in the game, let's call it rain-free weather, such as hot, sunny, and cloudy weather. There is no difference between these types. Despite several patches, the developers did not do anything about it, and Rockstar did very well in this matter. So, considering that these types of things are not repaired, then we don't even count on improving some of the physics elements of the game, like the one we also talked about some time ago. For example, when CJ is falling from a great height into the water, he does not submerge under the water surface, which in turn was the case in the version from 18 years ago. The lighting is also not overwhelming, especially in GTA San Andreas, which leaves much to be desired. GTA 3 can be very dark at times, and the game is then not very comfortable. But the king in this matter is GTA San Andreas, where in some cutscenes you can barely see the faces of the characters. There are other downside aspects that they forgot to fix. One of them is that some songs are not licensed. And while in GTA 3 they can get over it, in GTA Vice City, the lack of Billie Jean at the beginning of the game is very hard to accept. By the way, we have quite an interesting thing about the rock band Love Fist, created especially for Vice City, whose song was also removed from the game. Why? Well, it's hard to say. Another thing many complain about and agree with is the content of the game. And so we know that this is a remaster and that the creators focused only on graphics. But in the case of GTA, not adding any additional things is simply a waste of great potential. Nothing new has been added to GTA Trilogy. There are no additional activities, no extra curiosities that would lead to the solution of some gross ambiguity like the Big Foot from GTA San Andreas. Only some curiosities have changed, mainly to promote GTA 5 or Red Dead Redemption 2. The one you are currently seeing is a perfect example. Even though Grove Street Games took care of creating remasters, this aspect should be taken into account. GTA has used us to pay attention to details and give players the fun of finding wonderful Easter eggs, usually scattered literally at every step in the game world. Out of respect for their recipients, even though, as we mentioned, the intention of remasters is only to refresh the graphic aspects, developers should show more initiative here, at least in our opinion. Especially since Grove Street Games was in the game scripts for about 2 years, and the money we had to spend on GTA, the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition during release was not small. What's more, after all this, there were still moments when we were left spitting and laughing in the face. An example may be the statement of the CEO of Take-Two, that is, Mr. Zelnick, who once said, "With regards to the GTA trilogy, that was actually not a new title. That was a remaster of pre-existing titles. We did have a glitch in the beginning, but that glitch was resolved, and the title has done just great for the company." After this, you can only wonder if Mr. Zelnick did not take some coke from Diaz. After all, it's hard to believe that after such a disappointment, a person in such a responsible and serious position could say a thing so detached from reality. Of course, a lot of things were also fixed. Nevertheless, these are smaller things that were bugs that shouldn't have happened. We're talking about some mysterious islands in Vice City, an incorrectly made pool on Starfish Island, which looked different on the radar than in reality, some broken rain, bad drawing distance, or lack of necessary map elements. It's good that the modding community has had a strong impact on remasters, and thanks to the help of such people, we can fix all parts of the trilogy by ourselves. However, this is not the solution we expect as fans of the series. But the biggest abstraction of this situation is that we think remasters are quite mediocre, until hundreds of errors appear on our faces. Of course, it is worth noting that remasters don't receive such a note because they are good productions, but because we love GTA, and even though remasters limp in many aspects, they are a refreshment of those great classics in which we spent hundreds or even thousands of hours. So, is it worth buying remasters 1 year after the release, after what we told you? If you're interested in our opinion, definitely not. Even if GTA the Trilogy the Definitive Edition would cost $10, the question remains whether this treatment of the gaming community should be supported, and whether by buying this piece of crap, we will not drive even greater carelessness in the context of future studio productions. In the meantime, thank you for your presence, and we would like to remind you to rate the video. We also invite you to enjoy more enjoyable episodes that are currently displayed on the screen. For now, see you in the next episode. Bye!